Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for Wisecrack Live. We'll be with you in just a moment. Henry here saying have a good day, and thanks for being here.
Well, it's Thursday, January 26th. I'm Michael Burns. I'm joined, as always, by producer Henry. We're here at Wisecrack Live. This is the weekly stream where we do Wisecrack stuff, but it's unscripted. It's off the cuff. We're tired of keeping it researched, and it's time to keep it real. No, we still do research, but we're here. This is where we talk and hang out. Glad to have everyone here. I'm still recovering from last week. If you didn't watch last week's stream, it's where I was bullied into doing physical fitness on stream. I did 8 or 9 push-ups. And then later that day, I was feeling a little good about myself. So I decided to do some more push-ups. And the next day I felt horrible. Don't recommend it. What's up to everyone in the chat? Good to see you all. And what's up, Dave and Gregoria and Mellow Jello and Caspi and all of my friends, both with green usernames and with regular usernames. Lots going on, lots to talk about. We'll get into it, but I'll tell you something fun. Some of you know this about me, some of you don't. I almost said proud, but I don't know if I'm proud of it. I'm a graduate of the Florida public school system. So if you ever thought to yourself, isn't it weird that Michael's someone who has a PhD, but sometimes sounds like an idiot? we could maybe just blame it on that. I don't know. But that's where I was educated, which is why I have a pet interest in Florida, the culture of Florida, the educational system of Florida, the politics of Florida, the fast casual dining options in the state of Florida. And Florida is also interesting. It's become this sort of like cultural gauge for the country in recent years, which is really weird. So when things happen in Florida, they seem to have some bearing in culture, politics, society, all of those things. So we're going to talk about Florida a little bit today, mostly because Florida is fucking things up in terms of education at the high school and university levels. I care about these things too because I used to teach at colleges, so I care about things like that. Penny said people who graduated from Harvard sound like idiots. I agree. I hate people from Harvard. If you're from Harvard, get the fuck out of here. Moises is right. My Florida brain does act up sometimes. Yeah. Wow. Julia's just firing strays at her ex, who's a Florida school graduate. So there you go. Patrick's begrudgingly representing from Florida. So there you go. Isaac says, how do I become green? Either eat lots of spinach or you can become a member of the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel in particular. So if you want to check that out, you can. People will tell you how to do it. It's pretty easy to do. You can join. You get a green name. Mellow Jello as a Floridian. Glad you're here. And also, too, when I say bad stuff about Florida, I'm mostly talking about the ideological infrastructure and a small group of individuals that are a part of enforcing that. I have family and friends in Florida. I'm not here to, be a dick or anything like that. Henry Patterson went to college in Florida, liberal arts college among aging wasps. Henry, I don't want you to out yourself. Did you go to Rollins? Liberal arts college. Where else would you have gone? Stetson? Where are the other liberal arts colleges? I don't know. But yeah, help people become a member if they want to. Florida resident and policy worker here, Corey Armstrong. Thanks for being here, Corey. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of people who we were talking about the Ivy League before, Ron DeSantis is a Yale grad. I think my people went to Yale. Ron DeSantis, George Bush, Dick Cheney. The architects of 9/11. New College. That's actually a cool place. But we'll get into that in a second. Also, this is a little hint. We might. So I think what we're doing these days is kind of hitting the more serious topic in the first hour, and then maybe having space for a palate cleanser in the second hour. Our palate cleanser might involve a certain hole. It might involve some holy activity, and I'm not talking about church, friends. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you'll find out. But again, thanks for being here. Glad everyone is here. Kind of bullshitting if some people show up. As always, like the stream. Why do we say like the stream? Well, we say it because when people watch the stream, YouTube treats us better and shows more people the stream. When those people see the stream, click the stream, watch the stream, we get to keep doing the stream. When we get to keep doing the stream, we get to hang out with you all once a week. So that's really what we're all about. That's what we're all about. Someone just said butt stuff, and I like it. Okay, so first things first, I always like to do this. Let's do a quick checkup on what's happening in the world of Wisecrack. Since we've last been together, what have we done? Put some shorts up. We're doing more shorts and TikTok stuff. I did one about Prince Harry. You might be thinking, who the fuck cares about Prince Harry? I don't know. I was interested in the idea that Henry is here today. He's going to start talking soon. Don't worry. I promise.
Present.
I promise. Yeah, see, president accounted for. But I did a short on Prince Harry, the point of it being that I think I'm almost impressed with the grift of Prince Harry and Meghan and stuff like that. I think it's pretty genius to leave the royal family and make a whole show of rejecting your seat at the monarchical table, and then coming to America and doing the American, I guess American neoliberal royalty move of just getting a Netflix deal and doing a tell-all book and making content and having a podcast company and all this sort of shit that just turns you into another pseudo Kardashian type, thus being a type of American royalty or something. Brian already says Henry sounds better. He did a lot of audio work this week. We had Henry in the audio minds. We said get the audio together or you're out. Or
I
you're out.
really
We didn't
practiced
say
to
that.
get my voice that way.
Yeah. So if you want to check out that short on Prince Harry, feel free. We're going to do more shorts soon. We put out a video this week on how kids become political tools. And you know what, guys? Really, I think we put out 2 videos since we were last together. Friday, we put out a video on rich people on TV, satire or good PR. Check that out if you haven't. And then we put out this video on kids being political tools, and a lot of really normal comments. Definitely no comments accusing myself or people on the Wisecrack team being groomers or, participating in the liberal blood cult that drinks the adrenochrome of children to get our liberal power or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I mean, let's see. I wonder if I can find some of the crazy comments. I'm gonna look for a second. And it's a fine video, but I'll be honest with you all. It's one of those videos where after this came out, I was just like, maybe we should back away from doing the heavy political stuff. Not because it's bad, not because anything was wrong. I just don't like dealing with the feedback of some of this. Although a lot of people left really good comments about their sex ed classes. I'm curious if anyone has weird experiences with that. All I remember about sex ed is the boys went in one room and the girls went in another room. And I remember learning about what did we learn about? We learned about wet dreams. Here's a good comment on this video from Sage. It says, in my sophomore year health class, they barely taught us about condoms or contraceptives. What they did instead was bring in an outside group to teach us about abstinence. The lady who ran it made us analyze Ed Sheeran's song, Shape of You, because the song promoted having sex before starting a relationship. We had to say how the song was wrong, how we should go on about our relationship. She gave us heart-shaped lollipops that said real love waits and abstinence before marriage. I really hope someone sees this because that was the cringiest health class I've ever had to take. Sage, we saw it. We saw it. Yeah, I didn't get abstinence education there. Someone corrected me in the comments of that one and let me know that I said that the bones of children are brittle for some reason, and it says they're more like rubber. They're more like rubber. This is actually good. I can't really find any of the really crazy comments early on, so I guess they got downvoted or went away, which I really appreciate that. I'm going to scroll 2 more times. This is great. Someone said, up until I was 16, I thought the G spot was that place where all the cool kids hung out after school. There you go. Yeah, sex ed is weird, but now we're not, now they can't do any type of sex ed. Someone says this channel is getting more and more based with each video. I don't even know what that means. We're objective. We have no views. We have no opinions. We have no ideological commitments. So don't even worry about it. As always, what do we have coming down the line? I always forget exactly what we have coming out. Let's think. Henry, have you been editing anything? Oh, yeah, guys, we have a video about cheating coming out, about how to do it, how to get away with it. I kid, not that. We have a video on the riots in Brazil on January 8th coming out. We have a video on, guys, we have a lot of stuff coming out, but I forget what a lot of stuff. Oh, we have one on health optimization. We got a lot of stuff coming out, okay? Nine Tails Cosmic Fox says, did you already cover the book burnings? We did a video a couple months ago about burning books. Letter W said we can't hear Henry, and Letter W spelled your name kind of like Henri in a very French way. Christopher Pierce, I don't know if this is true or not, said in their sex ed they watched a video of their teacher giving birth. So they watched a video of their teacher giving birth. And Green Isaac is here. But then Nelson says your voice is truly present. So there you go. But yeah, sex education. Dave says I should do YouTube shorts on sex ed. Isaac, we love Lula. You know that. But The most important sex ed I had, I did a whole thing about this at a show at a theater here once that was pretty uncomfortable. But when I was very young, I was watching TV with my mom and some show came on. I forget what we were watching, like a sitcom. And my mom was just like, well, I guess I should talk to you about sex. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, well, the first thing you need to know is foreplay. I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, you can't just get right into it. You got to warm up first. And I think I was 10 or 11. And then my mom proceeded to tell me that the first part of sex is how can I be elegant here? Making sure, and she, in my case, I guess, my mom was working in a heteronormative framework. She assumed I was going to go that route. She happened to be right. But my mom then told me about the importance of performing oral sex on a woman before having penetrative sex. I was very young. I forget the exact age. I was way too young for my mom to teach me about oral sex. Then the question is, are you ever at a good age to have your mother teach you about oral sex? I don't know. Not a single mom, but I had a very, very, very old school dad who like wouldn't talk about stuff like that. So, black is cold. You came into me talking about my mom teaching me about sex. So the thing I knew going into life as a young adult was that as a man, my responsibility was to make sure I prioritize the physical pleasure of my partner in an unselfish way. And in one sense, I think that my mom, yeah, Moises says Mama Burns is right. I mean, that's not wrong. That's not a wrong thing to say. And I think it was helpful. My mom is by no means woke, and she can't be woke because in Florida it's illegal to be woke. We'll get into that. But, I think that there was something accidentally progressive about that. It was also horrifying and things I wish I wouldn't know. And then I had a fight with my sister once, who's 2 years younger than me, because she told me sex is when, I mean, I'm sure we all had this as kids. Someone thought this, where my mom told me that, or my sister was like, sex is when the daddy pees inside the mommy. And I was like, that's not how it works. That's disgusting. But, according to some internet videos you can find, I think some people do think that's what sex is. So there you go. If anyone had an awkward talk with your parents, let us know. Did you have any, like the stream, or you don't prioritize female sexual pleasure? That's what I got to say. If you are not liking the stream, you don't think that women should have sexual pleasure. Henry, did you have any sex education in your schooling?
I recall a very odd 2006 junior year, 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. We watched a VHS in a sociology class that was very much from the late 80s, and all it was just pure STD terror. The kids just don't touch each other at all. Don't even look at each other. You're gonna die at like the age of 19. You're gonna get AIDS. You're gonna have herpes everywhere. I remember that. Partly because I think it was like in high school and we were all kind of skeptical of it by that point. It was also 2006. I think internet culture had kind of started seeping into the kids.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like a very dated, just like, why the hell are we in this room watching this sort of experience?
That's wild. Jimmy Nail says I'm the anti DJ Khaled, 100%. Last sex ed story, then we'll get into the Florida stuff. I was at a church sponsored event once that was kind of abstinence based. And here is what they did. Someone at this church event said, if you have sex, you're probably going to get AIDS. That's how you get AIDS. You have sex, you get AIDS. And then they said, but you probably think, well, I'll just wear a condom and I'll be fine. And the person at this church event said, not so fast. And they took out a sock, like a tube sock. Then they took out a bottle of water. They opened the cap of the bottle of water. They put the tube sock over the bottle of water as if one was putting a condom on a penis. They then grabbed the sock and held it upside down. Now, you can imagine what happened. Water started pouring out. Someone says wild seeing chat members getting their messages deleted. I don't think anyone's deleting their messages, man. I think that sometimes people maybe choose to delete their own stuff. So they held the sock upside down and water started pouring through, and they stopped and looked at all of us, and they were like, that's how AIDS goes through a condom, which is crazy for many reasons. A, because it wouldn't be AIDS to be transmitted, it'd be HIV. But like, that's crazy, right? That's a crazy thing that happened. And it was at a church. So you should never learn about sex in a church setting, even if it's a good church, even if you like it there and you trust the people. I just don't think that's good. Yeah, Vox says here's what pregnancy is. STDs are bad. Only safe sex is abstinence. But to Ohio's credit, that's followed by, if you're going to do it, here's how condoms work. Yeah. Wow. If you have any questions on sex, don't ask us. Also, a quick update from last week. Last week, we talked about Justin Roiland and Andrew Callahan, a lot of stuff going on there. And worth noting that Adult Swim has fractured their partnership with Justin Roiland. He will no longer be a part of the show Rick and Morty. I did see from a tweet that seems legit, someone basically confirmed that Justin Roiland has had almost nothing to do with Rick and Morty since season 3, besides providing voiceover. So for anyone who's super worried about that, then there you go. But that is our update. I'm sure many of you know that. So that's that. Thanks again for being here. This is Wisecrack Live. I'm Michael Burns, joined by producer Henry. We really like having you here. It means a lot. Thank you to all our members. And thank you. I just caught Vox saying this to delete it and immediately deleting it. So, feel free. If you, just a couple other things, we're going to start watching some stuff about Florida. We're getting into it. We're getting into Florida time. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, we have a Patreon. If you want to support the channel, a way you can support the channel directly, if you want, you don't have to. Seriously, you don't have to. It's by joining our Patreon. We're catching up on content. We're filming another podcast soon. I'm filming an extra video this week. You get on our Discord. You get videos early with no ads, which is pretty fun. So, it's the easiest way to directly support us. I think with Patreon, it's something like, you give us $5 a month and we get like 4 of those dollars, or $3.50 or something like that. But it's a pretty good rate for us. So it's a way to directly support us if you feel like it. But if you don't feel like it, that's fine too. Another way you can directly support us, of course, is to become a member of the YouTube channel. You can do that right here. You get a green username. I have put out the call for more emotes. I asked for a Top G emote. I asked for a Harris Hole emote. I asked for a What Up Free Thinkers emote. If anyone else has ideas for emotes, what's up, Jackson, that you would like to see, please let me know. We'll try to note them down. Jackson, this is about the Justin Roiland thing. Also, subscribe to Skip Intro. If you don't, you're missing out. Jackson says, I feel like it's worse that they all didn't want him in the writer's room because he was a creep, but kept enabling him. Yeah, I don't know what people knew. Arjun Sinha said, what do you think about celebrity worshiping? I think we talked about this on a previous stream, but my take on celebrity worship is that they'll always let you down, and you should assume that most celebrities are bad people. And I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but I'm not being that hyperbolic. If someone is really famous and really rich, you should assume that they're probably not a good person. So many people, here's my one data point here. I know many individuals who live in Los Angeles, California, who are or have been waiters, bartenders, DoorDash drivers, delivery drivers, all these sorts of things. The one thing that you commonly hear all the time is that most very famous people are horrible tippers to low-wage, working-class service workers. In my mind, if you make millions of dollars and you don't tip well, you should go to hell. If hell exists, you should go there. I do not make a lot of money. I'm not going to tell you how much I make, but I don't make a lot, probably less than you think even. And I never tip less than 20% because it's just what one does. You got to tip. You just got to tip. So, that would be my take is a good judge. A way that I feel like I'm comfortable judging character is if you tip and you are kind to people that work in the service industry. I do know one thing I know for sure is I have a friend who used to deliver Chinese food to Patton Oswalt. And Patton Oswalt, the comedian, is supposedly an amazing tipper and very nice. So I think you're allowed to worship Patton Oswalt if you like him. And, there's exceptions. But yeah, celebrity worship is bad. And I'm working on a video that I think is going to come out next week that's kind of riffing off the Roiland stuff. That's about like separating the art from the artist and stuff. I've been reading about it all week. But yeah, I think you can appreciate someone's artwork without getting too into them. And I'll give you an example, something I struggle with as someone that, likes the stuff that I like. I've always been a big Bill Murray fan, and it's been hard to realize he kind of sucks and like treats people poorly. It's a bummer. Okay, we're talking about sex ed more, and I really like it. Let's see. Opinion on and here's the thing too. I don't want to get too much in the tipping culture, but I'll say this: tipping is stupid. I'm not related to Steve Burns from Blue's Clues. I wish I was, and I'm not related to Ken Burns, the documentary filmmaker. I wish I was. You know, it sucks that we have to tip because we shouldn't have to tip. Why shouldn't we have to tip? Because people should just get paid a living wage and they shouldn't be dependent on tips. In the meantime, though, if we say tipping culture is bad and we don't tip, we're being kind of shitty. So, until the system gets better in America, we should tip. In other parts of the world, you always have to do that. So there you go. Okay, let's start with this. This is from CNN. I'm going to say this too, because I see where some comments could go here. We're going to watch a CNN clip. It's not because we're being like, oh, CNN's good. We love liberal media. There was some video recently where someone got from it or implied that I was saying that CNN is leftist. CNN is not leftist. It's a centrist entertainment corporation that does news to sell advertising time. Troy Walker said, what about legendary comedian George Burns? That's my grandpa's name, but he wasn't George Burns. I am related to Sideburns. So there you go. Oh boy, they want the tip. Okay. I'm gonna start this video. So here's what we're talking about today. And here's some background if you don't know this. In Florida. So if you're from America, you know that in public high school in Florida, we have a thing called AP classes, advanced placement, and they're basically classes you can take at the end of high school that get you college credit. I famously failed AP economics, so trust my economic analysis. But so when I was in high school, I took a couple of AP English classes in my Florida public high school. It meant when I started college, I already had credits for my first two English classes. So my first English class in college was 19th century Russian literature with a bunch of juniors, which was fun. But the point being, in Florida, so they released or unleashed a new AP course, AP African American History. It was a course that was developed by the College Board in consultation with like 20 or 30 college professors. And Florida, their like education board said that it was illegal. And then also they created a banned book list and stuff like that. So we'll just start this, but I just wanted to say that as well. And if you're, and some of the AP stuff, let you know if you're from outside America, what the deal there is. We'll watch a few things, but let's talk about it.
Scared and confused teachers in some Florida counties are scrambling to comply with a new law championed by Governor Ron DeSantis. They're removing or physically covering the books in their classes because the law now requires classroom libraries be approved by a trained media specialist.
So this is like alongside we'll get into the AP stuff as well, but this is about them having to have books approved or disapproved. Also, Ron DeSantis is probably going to be the next president. Don't get mad at me for saying it, but it's probably
violations
true.
Could be charged as a third-degree felony. Layla Santiago is live for us in Miami this morning. Layla, what in the world is going on here?
All right, so Don, this is related to a law that actually took effect in July of last year, but as recently as just a few weeks ago, the Florida Department of Education was still putting out guidance. And as I've been watching
Florida Department of Education, I hate that sounds oxymoronic, but it does.
These school board meetings, you hear from parents that will tell you this is about transparency. This is about parents' rights. But I've also talked to parents and teachers that are using some of those words you just used, Don. They're saying that they're describing this as angst, fear, and confusion.
Behind the covered wall of paper in this Manatee County classroom, books. Teacher Don Falls told us he covered the bookshelves out of concern for a new state law that requires all books in classroom libraries to be approved or vetted by a media specialist or librarian that is trained by the state.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird one. The idea, I guess there's a difference between having a curriculum, right, that is overseen by educators, but this idea that there's like books lists and stuff like that, it's pretty crazy.
We were instructed last week that we were essentially had three choices.
I mean, if you just showed me this guy's picture and you were like, what does he do for work? You have three guesses. I would say public high school history teacher. I would say regionally notable projectionist who specializes in 70 millimeter prints. Or I would say, what would my third one be? Guy starting a marijuana products company in a state that is not yet legalized.
As far as our personal libraries that are in our classrooms, we could remove them completely, box them up. We could cover them up with paper or some sort of something, or they could be entered into a database where the school district has all of the library books and all the other kinds of books. And if the book was in the system, then it could remain on the shelf.
Also, I feel like there should be some teen consultants that are a part of this, because there's nothing you could do to make kids want to do something more than tell them that a book was banned. Like if you would have told me when I was in high school that a book was banned, I would have done everything in my power to read that book.
Falls, who is part of a lawsuit against Governor Ron DeSantis regarding his Stop Woke Act, says it has.
Like, how can you take a government seriously when they have a thing called a Stop Woke Act, which we'll maybe talk about in a second?
Caused him and other teachers much fear and angst, but the district says it never instructed teachers to shut down classroom libraries. According to the school district, volunteers will be helping to catalog books in classroom libraries.
Barney Knight says, I miss when this channel wasn't just more leftist shilling. I don't know. I always think it's funny when people say that. If you go way back, one of the first Wisecrack videos ever was like an 8-bit philosophy on like Marx. And people were like, oh, this channel's so leftist. Like one of the first videos on Marx. I don't know what to fucking tell you. But also I don't know how it's leftist to say that it's weird to ban books. If anything, that's just very free speechy.
If a book already has the green light, it can go right back on the shelf for students. But if it is not pre-approved, it must be vetted before a student can have access to it.
We are going to make sure that parents have a seat at the table and that we protect their rights, because nobody is more invested in the proper well-being of kids than the parents themselves.
According to Florida's Department of Education, selection of library materials, which includes classroom libraries, must be free of pornography.
Free of pornography? I mean, that's fair, right? We shouldn't have pornography. But I think sometimes they make pornography just anything that represents sex. But I agree. I agree that we shouldn't have pornography in books in schools.
Pornography and prohibited under state statute, suited to student needs and their ability to comprehend the material presented, appropriate for the grade level and age group for which the materials are used and made available. Violations can result in a third-degree felony.
This is us protecting the teachers, not saying we're banning books.
During a school board meeting
I was going to say what I thought it looked like that guy did for work, but I'm not going to do it.
this week, Manatee County school officials acknowledge they don't know how long it'll take to verify all the books.
Like
in the meantime, the district said students have access to books in their school's main library, but the process has sparked confusion and high emotion.
I would not suggest banning books. It's a slippery slope. This is good literature with value. Please do not ban books.
Can you guys imagine if I have a kid and I have to go to a school board meeting? I think I'd be really good at it. So hopefully Wisecrack still exists at that point, and I can live. Part of the stream will be me going to a school board
During a
meeting.
school board meeting in Pinellas County, school officials confirmed they too are working to align policies with state.
And I think that's the problem. I think Vox said this in the chat. So when they say that, there can't be books with pornographic content, I think what's happening in many cases is they're saying that anything that represents queerness or gay relationships or anything besides very white bread heteronormative stuff is pornographic. And that seems bad. Someone did bring up the slippery slope card, and then go ahead, Henry.
It also pokes at just like the heteronormative tyranny of like, look, we don't need to talk about sex because everybody knows what sex is. It's between two straight people. So any sort of talk of anything that's even vaguely sexual, it's like, oh, that's pornographic and outside of that norm.
Yeah. Two things in the chat. Moro Castroso says, what do you recommend for someone who wants to start to learn philosophy but has problems reading, like ADHD, and struggles with retention? You're talking to the right guy. What I did early on to learn philosophy is I would just read little bits at a time. And when I would read books by philosophers I liked a lot, I would read like a couple pages, try to write down notes. And I think like writing notes and keeping track of things. And I would also write in my books a lot because then I would be able to go back and see what I was excited about. And I also think like there's a lot of good, not like Wisecrack, but there's like good lecture videos of philosophers on YouTube. You can watch some of those. But I just think breaking stuff down into small chunks. Dead Card 13 said, dude, you're leftist if you don't act like basic empathy and compassion are weaknesses. Just assume someone was talking out their ass and carried on with life. I saw a quote this week. I wish I would have saved it. It was from maybe like an older writer who's someone that was vaguely apolitical and people might think of as leftist. And he made this point that was sort of like, for this person, political life just boiled down to a fundamental kindness towards others. And I'm going to start using that as a line when someone's like, I'm going to go to Wisecrack headquarters and burn it down because they're filthy communists or whatever. It's just sort of like, I just think we should operate with a presumption of kindness and a prioritization of, you know, people who are oppressed in various ways. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be. That doesn't seem to be unfair. Honeyman's reading Capital One, huge struggle because of ADHD for sure. If you're reading Capital, and I don't know this, I only know this because of education, not because I care about Marx, communism, or anything. David Harvey's lecture series is really helpful, and David Harvey's book on reading Capital is really helpful. Okay, let's get back to this.
Requirement. Officials say a group of library media specialists reviewed 94 book titles over the summer.
And that team did recommend 10 titles to be weeded out of our collections or moved to our adult-only resource library.
There is appropriateness and there is inappropriateness. Where books are concerned, we have to really keep the minors in mind. You cannot substitute adult supervision. You just cannot.
Julia, philosophy degree in ADHD hive. Let's go.
Adult supervision, parents, whether it be a guardian or grandparent, have to be aware of what the child is being.
I'm curious about this. Do any of you feel like your parents were super involved in your education when you were young? And maybe this was my parents. I know we already know. If you're just tuning in, one thing we know about my parents is my mom taught me about the importance of foreplay and sexual encounters and the prioritization of female sexual pleasure. But I don't really think that my parents like cared what I learned in school or paid that much attention. Did you ever really? Oh yeah, Gregory Sadler is really good. Henry, did you have very involved parental supervision in terms of like your school curriculum and what you were reading?
We'd talk about what like I was reading or like studying in class, and I would like read and stuff on my own. They didn't really like, they were busy working, so they didn't really get involved in like PTA or like school structures. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, people in the chat are getting this too. Also, hi to everyone with ADHD in the chat. There was a comment on last week's stream where someone was like, I want to like this, but the rapid pace is ruining my ADHD brain. And then someone else was like, it kind of works for mine. So, you know, to each their own.
Taught.
While some parents praise what they call parents' rights at work.
Yeah, Vox made a really good point. I swear to God, I'll stop pausing in a second. But Vox makes this point that there are a lot of conservative academics like Vox. I also have taught at a Catholic university. I think that the difference is conservative academics are classical conservatives, from like the old school William Buckley, even like Reagan-y economic model thing, where for them conservatism is more about a certain economic model than it is a sort of moral model or something like that. So I do think when people say there's no conservatives in education, that's just patently false. But, you know.
It's a slippery slope.
Okay, slippery slope logic doesn't work. See, we'll say that. We all know that.
Anytime you
Okay, I'm going to stop pausing after this. This is important. Ignacio Jr. says, how bad is it if I self-diagnose with ADHD? It's bad because you can't get treatment if you self-diagnose. So getting an actual diagnosis is really helpful.
Strict access to information, to knowledge, it's censorship. I don't think there's any other way to categorize it.
Okay, so let's go back to that Pinellas County School Board meeting from this week for a minute. The school officials there made it clear that there could be additional titles that are removed as they continue through this process, and they are going to continue, they say, to err on the side of caution. Another challenge brought up by one of the school board members, the definition of age.
I'm very confused about what's happening in the chat right now. Yeah, I just don't really think we're a far left channel, but I don't know.
Appropriate. How do you define what it?
Oh, but just a quick break. We're not a far left channel. Everyone is a part of the Revolutionary Junta. We are having a meeting next week. We're going to start building, I think it's Gulag 4, where we're going to establish re-education camps. So if you're a part of the Wisecrack Patreon, you know that we are, building a revolutionary front to take down American society, to build a new international communitarian wing. So if you are wanting to contribute to the bake sale, we're going to use the bake sale to buy the materials to build the gulag that will house the re-education camp. You can do that, but just check out our Patreon that we use as a secret political cell group. And you can check that out later.
Is age appropriate.
Thanks, Brian.
Vetting process. I reached out to the governor's office as well as the Department of Education with that very question, and we have
So I did watch this clip before, and the fun thing is Don Lemon's about to lose his fucking mind.
not received a response.
Layla, thank you. Thank you. Poppy, this is bizarre.
I know.
What are we doing here? I mean, I feel like we're going back. I feel like I'm watching a bad version of like Pleasantville, where I don't get what's happening. It feels like the 1950s all over again with like book banning. This is cancel culture from people who are, I guess they just want our kids to be ignorant and to control the teachers.
He's so mad.
This is outrageous. I really don't even know how to explain what's going on here. It's just ridiculous.
The felony charges thing is pretty crazy.
Yeah, or another country. I mean, Layla, you're a parent. You're a new parent. I got kids just starting to read, and when I read this in your reporting, that a teacher can face a felony.
Lemon's about to freak. Get
if
ready.
They knowingly distribute anything not approved by these DOE trained professionals. Like, that is stunning. You open your piece and the books are covered with paper.
Oh wait,
that's happening.
He's gonna freak out in a
American
second.
classrooms. It's wow.
Right, and Poppy and Don, I should add, in Pinellas County, one of the things that came up in that school board meeting was a recent removal of a book just within the last month. That book was Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison.
So that's really crazy. If you've ever read Toni Morrison, the idea that Toni Morrison books would be banned is crazy.
That became part of that debate that there is a Nobel Peace Prize author.
DeSantis went to Harvard and Yale?
Is being pulled, but from the other side, you have parents who say, "I'm not comfortable with some of that material.
Lemon's gonna
I
lose
should
it
know
soon. Just
what
get
is
ready.
in my classroom."
Don't click
and
away.
This is a book that deserves, in their opinion, further.
You might want to click
and
away.
just to be clear,
can't.
I know we got to go, but I'll be clear. I do think parents need a voice in this. I'm a parent.
Yeah. So here we go. So I normally don't watch clips before, but just wait for Pinellas County. There. What cities are in Pinellas County? Someone let me know. Thank you, Maverick Mario. Thank you, Dead Card 13. We love it. Yeah. Let's see if we can hit 666 right when Lemon freaks out. So watch this, guys. Poppy's gonna set him up, and then Lemon's gonna go off.
Parent who wants a vacation.
Holy shit! Vox knew Toni Morrison.
Amazing.
Vox continues to be the most interesting man on the internet.
But I also think there's a lot that.
But this isn't
as
about
they
a voice
grow-
in education,
yeah.
Poppy.
Here he
I
goes.
think
Here he
I
goes.
think that's a red herring. Listen,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I think that's a red herring because there are lots of uncomfortable topics that are in books.
You didn't let me finish.
Nazism.
I was
Mein
just gonna
Kampf,
say.
all of it. Right.
I was just going to
Yeah.
say that was the second
Go
part
on.
of my
Just
thought.
yelling
Don,
Mein Kampf at her.
But I want my kids to read things that are uncomfortable to talk about and have these hardest conversations at home and in the classroom. So.
That's how we learn. Things are uncomfortable. History is uncomfortable. Even the present is present. The moment that we're in is uncomfortable. Being here in Memphis
Welcome to the
and
revolution,
discussing
Don Lemon.
a man being
Come to the
beaten
bake
by
sale.
police and 5 officers turning themselves in and who could possibly face charges, that is uncomfortable. Not everything is happy, happy, joy, joy.
He said, "Not everything is happy, happy, joy, joy." Shouts to Ren and Stimpy.
And in order to grow as human beings and as a country and as a democracy, we have got to be able to face these things that are in our past. Toni Morrison is one of the most decorated authors in the history of this country and the world. I mean, it is outrageous. People, Ron DeSantis, Stop it. You're not helping.
Oh, Ron DeSantis, stop it. You're not helping. Oh boy. There you go, guys. So I want to see, I'm gonna scroll around for a second, see if I can queue up the right one. But there's, let's see, maybe it's not this one. Hold on, friends. I'm just gonna scroll around a bit. So that had to do more with the book banning. Oh, let me pause it. Book banning side of things, or not book banning, but the Florida book watch list. We're getting close to 666. I don't do push-ups at 666. I do push-up when we get to certain levels. If it gets to 666, I do the satanic voice. But yeah, there we go, friends. Oh, we're at 669. 669 rips, but I'll do a 666. Welcome to Florida. 669 is maybe better than 666, if you ask me. Yeah, Jackson's point there is really good. Happy 666. There we go, everyone. But let's watch a little bit. We're just like sticking to the left-wing media, so let's go over to MSNBC, the radical Leninist news organization that has been secretly infiltrating the airwaves to lead the revolution for years. I know I want to get a 666 emote for all the members out there. Like the stream if you haven't, but I wonder if that would offend some people. I don't want to offend anyone,
Nothing but the left-hand path here.
Yeah. So there you go. But so let's watch a little bit of this, because this gets into the AP African American Studies class that's been banned in Florida. And this is the one that I think is really, really out of pocket, really fucked up. Yes, guys. So I don't know if anyone gets sarcasm here. Sometimes I'm bad at being sarcastic. Or my tone doesn't shift enough. Again, we're just watching these channels because they're talking about it. They're all centrist. All the news stations are just right and left or whatever. They're entertainment networks owned by major media conglomerates that put things on TV to try to get our attention and make us feel panicky so that they can sell advertising for the most amount of money. That's all that it is, folks. That's all that it is. We know this, right? We know this. Like the stream if you haven't already. It helps us out a lot. If you do not like the stream, you are saying that you want books to be burned in front of children. Not a big deal.
Inexplicably contrary to Florida law and significantly lacks educational value. That's how the administration of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis describes a new college-level course for high school students on African American studies. It's already being taught in 60 high schools nationwide.
I would really, I'm curious, I don't know if anyone here is in high school, has recently been in high school or anything like that. I really think that this really would have pissed me off when I was in high school. I'm not doing this to be like, oh, I'm good. But I would have wanted to take that course. That genuinely sounds like it would be super interesting. I can't imagine signing up for, AP African American Studies in high school and then having the state be like, you can't. That's crazy.
As a first test, the curriculum was in development for a decade. Endorsing the class, the chair of Howard University's history department said the course presents, quote, a solid understanding of how African Americans have shaped America, its history, laws, institutions, culture, and arts, and even the current practice of American democracy, which sharpens all knowledge about our nation. But according to Ron DeSantis and his State Department of Education, a course cultivated for 10 years by scholars and experts is neither lawful nor historically accurate.
I just like that this, I'll say it, motherfucker, is saying that a course developed by a whole host of college professors from, African American Studies departments are historically inaccurate. I just don't know. It's great. And also lawful, like the teaching. I don't know. Also, unrelated question. What do we think Ron DeSantis's favorite musical artist is and his favorite meal is? What does he listen to? He gets in his car at the end of a long work day. Also, this has nothing to do with anything we're talking about in the stream right now. But the best news story I've seen in quite some time I saw yesterday, and this is ADHD brain stuff. The rapper Rick Ross refuses to drive in a Tesla because he's afraid it'll take him directly to the police and that the cops will hack the Tesla and take him in for questioning. And I think Teslas are stupid and I wouldn't want to drive one, and this relates actually because Rick Ross is from Florida as well. I think that's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life, that Rick Ross won't get in a Tesla, because someone said Wu-Tang is what DeSantis listens to. I think he would make Wu-Tang illegal. They're historically inaccurate or something like that. Celine Dion, I could see. Ham and cheese, definitely no condiments. This guy likes dry food. This guy likes his food so dry. He eats Slim Jims. Chet Hayes, Morgan Wallen. Oh yeah. I got it. He should listen to Rick Ross. Insane Clown Posse. That would make sense. Yeah, but you all could look up the Rick Ross thing. I think it was good. Kid Rock for sure.
Ask yourself what specifically is wrong with the AP African American Studies class, according to Ron DeSantis and his administration, which would be a fair question. The Associated Press reports, quote, Florida education officials did not.
This is someone said, Teslas are stupid because I don't like Musk. Before he's not a leftist. Probably because he's not a leftist. No, Teslas are stupid because they don't work well. Look up the stories about Teslas like just having parts falling off, and they cost way too much money. And if they're not good enough for Rick Ross, they're not good enough for me. Someone said he listens to Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash would hate Ron DeSantis, I bet. No music, just powers down. Multiple Kid Rocks. I think that makes sense. Someone said Orville Peck. I don't really know Orville Peck other than it's like a country singer and he wears a mask.
Not specify exactly what content the state found objectionable.
Oh, that's good. I just want to I'm going to rewind for 2 clicks just to make sure we all see this. Florida education officials did not specify exactly what content the state found objectionable. This is great. That's really great. Yeah, and someone did bring up. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, yeah, they're not actually reading any of these books.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is like, and I feel like I'm in a weird spot here because I never want to say that ideas and books and education should be gate kept only by those with advanced degrees that are experts in areas. I don't like that. At the same time, it just feels like a school board, and often school boards are made up of people that are elected officials who are often not educators, do not have a background in pedagogy or specific subject areas. So you're taking individuals who are elected to a political position on a school board or a board of education, not because of their specific expertise in that area, but because they got voted in largely due to an ideological bias. Then we're going to have those people be the ones that make decisions on curriculums developed by experts in those areas. You know, I don't like that. Seems not good. Just Michael says, what about a Hogwarts style restricted section? But yeah, I mean, that's so, and they didn't specify what content they found objectionable. Okay. Well, I think they get into it a little bit more later, and we have a couple articles we could check out if we want to get into this.
Joining us now, Reginald Ellis, an associate professor of history and African American studies at Florida A&M University, which is one of the state's historically black colleges and universities. Professor Ellis, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You've had a chance to look into this a little bit. Can you glean what the problem is, what the illegal?
It's nice to have 2 bald kings on TV at the same time. This is what America needs.
Part of this course is, I mean, we can get into it in a second about educational value, but incompatible with the state's whatever rules or methodology. What are they talking about?
You know, when it first came out, I spoke with some of my colleagues, and we were very surprised, and unfortunately, we were just.
But someone brings up in the chat like elected members of a community. I mean, I get that they're elected, but why should someone who doesn't have a background in that get a say in the same way that people get to make environmental policy at the government level that don't have a background in natural science, biology, things of this nature? In the same way, I wouldn't want, people making decisions on medical practices in a hospital that didn't have a background in medicine, that were just elected or something like that. It just doesn't make sense. There's certain areas that necessitate a particular level of expertise. Would we have someone be the conductor of a symphony that didn't know how to read music? No, it would literally make no sense to give someone a position of leadership and influence in an orchestra who didn't understand how music works. And I think that's the problem here. And you know what? Let's say something crazy. I'm going to see if I can blow up the chat. Maybe sometimes democracy is bad, guys. I don't know.
Disappointed that language coming from the Florida Department of Education via the governor. We were very excited 2 years ago when College Board took on this great task of creating African American Studies AP curriculum. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I was excited that 12 years from now she would have the opportunity to take the African American.
Yeah, or someone brought up religious people dictating abortion access. Of course, this is another thing. Like it's just stupid when, like, regardless of what you think about certain debates, I don't know, a bunch of dudes without backgrounds in medicine or health shouldn't get to make those decisions.
Studies AP course as credit for college. So no, we were very disappointed and and shocked that it would at this point be blocked.
And just to be clear, because there are all sorts of people in this country very excited about CRT, critical race theory, and how it's being taught to little children. That's not true. This is an actually fully.
Hey, for everyone who's just tuning in, welcome to the Wisecrack Revolutionary Junta Hour. We're watching Leninist ideological pipeline, MSNBC. No, I'm kidding. It's Michael. I'm here with Henry. We're talking about some educational stuff going on in Florida, the banning of a AP African American Studies class and book stuff. We're having fun in the chat. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to us, as always. Like the stream. We're going to dive into some holes later, but love you guys, and thank you so much for being here. Thanks for putting up with us.
Developed course about African American history, designed for the college level, but to be taught to high school students who are high achieving students. Right? Like this is not a random indoctrination course. This was a very deliberate, high level course that students would use as part of their application to colleges.
So Alex makes this point in the chat. I know I'm pausing. I'm sorry. Well, democracy requires a certain state of education and values in a population. Otherwise, the outcome sucks. I mean, this is, guys, let's all read Aristotle, okay? Because in Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics and Politics, Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, you should read him. He's one of the best of all time, is really into democracy. And in a sense, we think about someone like Plato. Plato, not a big democracy head. Aristotle, the first big democracy head. But the entire point Aristotle makes is that if we want a democratic political system that functions well and operates under principles of virtue, we have to work backwards. How do we reverse engineer that system? By an emphasis on education. Education is like the thing that matters, Aristotle, in cultivating virtue and the ability to understand what's going on ethically and politically. As this whole thing, it's maybe book 6 or 7, I might be wrong, of the Nicomachean Ethics, where Aristotle kind of says, like, young people aren't good at politics yet because they don't have experience, but they need to have that experience. And the whole point of being that, like, to have a functioning democratic society, we need to have an education system that cultivates virtue and gives people experience in life and society and working with others. When we don't have those things, democracy doesn't work, because the point of a functioning democracy isn't just like everyone gets a say no matter what, I don't know, guys. I really like Aristotle a lot. So there you go. Define education. Well, for me, education is re-education camps in the Wisecrack gulags.
For sure, it's the same as you would have a AP US history, AP world history, AP chemistry, and psychology. And so
yeah, and it is weird. Like, why would AP African American Studies be held to a different standard than any of these other things?
If you think about it,
someone said bye. I wonder if it's because I made them mad or they're just leaving. I can never tell. I hope Logan Mansion Games just said bye because they got to head out. I hope you have a great day.
Most part.
Sorry if I'm being too spicy today. It's 11:58 Pacific time. Starting at noon, spice level goes off. I'm going to be like, I don't know. I'm going to have the spice level of a Sunday lunch at Ron DeSantis.
Many students don't have an opportunity to take African American history until they go to college. And so when you think about a kid like myself from a rural Southwest Georgia town in Wiggum, Georgia, I wasn't really exposed to African American history until my first year at Florida A&M University. Came to Florida A&M University as a occupational therapy major. In my first introduction to African American history class, I changed my major that night because I fell in love with history, and I fell in love with myself, and I understood for the first time in my life the role that Black people, diasporically speaking, played in the development of the world, but also...
That makes me feel emotional. I think that's why education is important, to have access to different ideas that can inspire you, access to ideas like, he just said he went to college to study occupational therapy, and via an African American history class, changed his life, took him on a trajectory where now he's a professor in that. And I think that that's really important and really great. And especially to say that, to have access to classes and courses that reflect you and your history, I think is really important.
played in the development of this American experience, this American democracy. So imagine how impactful this African American history AP course will be for hundreds of millions of individuals, not just Black people, not just Black kids, but Americans throughout, and how that will impact the further development of America.
So a remarkable story, your own story about how you changed from occupational therapy to history. Is there any likelihood that public opinion can come down to bear on this decision, or is this done in Florida?
Oh, I'm not sure about the politics, but I can tell you that historians throughout the nation were excited about this course and are still excited about this course. And I hope that that the governor and the individuals around the governor will reconsider the great value and the great history. I will say that this work has been.
Oh, is someone? Yeah, is someone? I don't think I'm seeing the person that Vox was talking about, who I guess was trolling in the chat. Oh, Carl Tanner.
Carl Tanner. I'll
Yeah,
keep a lookout
sometimes.
for that.
He said, define education. Sometimes I don't see, like, it shows me certain things in the chat, everyone. Sometimes, like, I miss things. So, yeah. But I trust Vox in general, because Vox is top G of the chat. Well, he's one of the top Gs. But let's argue. I don't know. Let's get into it. Okay, let's watch 2 more seconds of this video, and then we'll get on. Let's see. Okay.
For 2 years, and as professional historians, we know that everything we do goes through a peer review process, and I can confidently say that this.
Okay, so the Hook Man says, Michael says exposure to all ideas is important. Great. So conservative values, AP class, all set. No, but I think, Hookman, we do learn conservative ideas in like AP history. So for example, when you look at AP European history, or just European history and American history in general, the way they are taught, at least the way I was taught them, I absolutely learned about conservatism. Like, you look at the era of revolution and counter-revolutionary activity in Europe, you learn about conservatism. You learn about the French Revolution. You learn about a dichotomy between a more left-wing, democratic political ideology and a conservative one. You look at the history of early America, you learn about this stuff. So I actually agree with Hookman or whatever for that point there. And I think the point would be that you do get exposure to conservative ideas. But I also think you're doing apples and oranges, right? Because the debate here is not about a particular ideology. It's about African American studies and African American history, courses that represent the history and culture of a large group of human beings that make up a huge part of American culture and history. Now, that's different, right? Between saying we should represent a group of people and we should represent ideological structures, right? I don't think there should be high school courses that are like intro to Keynesianism, intro to libertarianism, intro to communism, whatever it might be. But in learning history, we learn these things. I don't even want to say in an objective way, but in a way that connects the ideas to historical narrative. So, and Hookman, I think, who said this, I'm really trying to engage with you in good faith here, but I would say that to me is the difference, and why I don't think it's hypocrisy, because the debate isn't AP, start a revolution is canceled, but we don't have AP, how to do conservative economic policy. I don't know. Yeah. And Logan says it's weird that you think African American history is inherently leftist, which is also kind of silly there. I don't know. I know I've been talking a lot, Henry. Thoughts?
Yeah, there's a comment I want to pull up. I need to roll back for a moment, but I have it right here. So Robbie Anderson said authoritarians don't want everyone to know how important Black people were to democracy and how Native American culture influenced democracy. And yeah, I think one of the things that's often overlooked is when you start looking into like American history in a more by ethnography and by ethnic history sort of breakdown, it does a lot to undo like a lot of conservative ideas about whiteness, even if you start breaking down like white people by ethnicity and looking at like, say, how the Germans migrated here versus how like some of the French and Italian got here. So yeah, it undoes the past for them, even though it's a fake past they're constructing.
Yeah. Hey, Hookman, thanks for engaging in good faith. Said, thanks for answering, but conservatism is not really represented. Well, I mean, here's the other thing I'll say. I have not been in public education for quite some time. I'm not going to say how many years because it would make me feel really old. But I guess you could say this, Hookman, as well. Like, maybe it's true that conservative politics, as you think they should be taught, are not represented. That is fair. But I'll just say on the other end, like, I was never exposed in education to any ideas that were even like really vaguely left in a contemporary sense. So yeah. And someone said, that's my opinion, depends on where you live. Yeah, let me qualify all of this, which, God damn it, Casby, for saying exactly how long it's been since I've been in high school. So mean. Just age shaming me. Just wow. This isn't a safe space. Oh, it's at 666 though, so that rips. But in case anyone thought this was a safe space for debate, it's not. It's a space where Casby will aggressively shame you for being an old piece of garbage. But yeah, I was just gonna say, totally fair. My last experience of public education was being in school in high school in the early 2000s. But I have been an educator and I've taught at universities in different states and different countries, so I have some sense of that. Go ahead, Henry.
Oh, I think the only other summation I just had was just like, also just like the history of slavery and the African American struggle is largely interwoven with labor history in the United States, and there's a reason we're not focusing on either.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe let's look at this then. I think this relates to what some people are asking. Let's see. I got too much in the queue. There's one clip, I don't know, people will get mad, but there's a clip where Ron DeSantis yells about how queer theory has nothing to do with Black history, which is pretty crazy. Here, you know what? We're being spicy today. I'm going to pull this up for a second. I just want to alienate as many of you as possible. That's my goal today. Mora said, "How old are you?" Real question. I mean, listen, if Cass said it's been 20 years since I was last in public education in Florida, in America, if you're on a standard track, you finish high school at 18. There you go. Hell yeah, Penny. Hey, Thornback, how are you? Again, thank you for being here, everyone. I have so much fun hanging out with you all. What a great group. What a great group of people in this chat. Even those of you I don't disagree with, even those of you I don't agree with, I tend to like. I like the style of engagement we have cultivated. It's really great. Okay, cool. People are older than me, and that means a lot. So, yeah, but thanks for being here. Having fun hanging out with you today. Let's get a little spicy, and then we're gonna get holed up. You know, we're gonna dive into some holes. So there you go. So let's watch DeSantis. My Uncle Ron.
An American Studies course that was rejected by the state. Been a lot of criticism of that move.
Oh yeah, should we talk about fucking M&Ms in a little bit?
People saying, this is exactly what we were fearing with the individual freedom.
Oh, and Nate Lynch, thanks for coming out. Or Nate Lynch.
I don't know if you or the commissioner could maybe expand a little bit more about what was in that course.
So. As you know, in the state of Florida, our education standards not only don't prevent, but they require teaching Black history, all the important things. That's part of our core curriculum. This was a separate course on top of that for advanced placement credit. And the issue is we have guidelines and standards in Florida. We want education, not indoctrination. If you fall on the side of indoctrination, we're going to decline. If it's education, then we will do. This course. So when I heard it didn't meet the standards, I figured, yeah, they may be doing this here. It's way more than that. This course on Black history, what's one of the lessons about? Queer theory. Now, who would say that an important part of Black history is queer theory?
It's just a wild thing to be like, the history of Black people has nothing to do at all with queerness. It's like implying that we can detach sexuality and, gender and sexual identity from the history of like people. It's just kind of a wild take. But yeah, his mic levels are bad. Listen to another second of this.
That is somebody pushing an agenda on our kids. And so
Thank you, Monica.
When you look to see, they have stuff about intersectionality, abolishing prisons.
So, like, again, intersectionality is a methodology. Intersectionality is not, you can be an intersectional conservative if you wanted to, right? Intersectionality just means when we're thinking about a phenomenon, we think about the intersection of different like identities and structures and ideologies and how they all affect a thing. So learning that methodologically isn't bad.
Political agenda. And so that's the wrong side of the line for Florida standards. We believe in teaching kids facts and how to think, but we don't believe they should have an agenda imposed on them. When you try to use Black history to shoehorn in queer theory, you are clearly...
If I was a reporter, I would say, Governor DeSantis, real quick, what is queer theory? Go. Let's see. Dave Logan says, I disagree with everything that DeSantis says, but he has the sound bites to get people on his side. No, he's like good in a sense that he wants that Trump seat in 2024. And listen, we don't do politics here. Again, Wisecrack is, we just do objective, non-ideological analysis. We have no views and our entire team has empty brains. But he knows what he's doing. Okay, so let's just do this then real quick. There's a video, I think it's on Forbes, and it just has text and it shows what is in the class. I wonder if this one, if I turn the volume down on Watch Together, will it turn the volume down for the stream, Henry?
I just turned it down on my end because it was coming through extremely loud.
Oh, cool.
So it should be good to
go. Someone just had a good take. Daniel A says, I got a spicy take. All education has an agenda. For sure. This is where someone like Louis Althusser is great. French philosopher who's kind of a bad guy sometimes. But Althusser, one of the things he's thinking about is in ideological interpolation and how governments, educational systems, religious systems interpolate us as subjects, meaning they create a certain sort of ideological identity within us. And I think it's true that like education does that. And I think hopefully no one's getting from this that we're saying that, this one thing is bad, but besides that, all like education is good and dandy. I think that there's a huge conversation to be had about the way in which education has an ideological function within society. Nelson, I'm glad you're on the ADHD roller coaster. This ADHD roller coaster is brought to you by Generic Concerta. But yeah, so I think that's a really good point someone brings up, and I think that's the a much broader question here. So let's look at this, and it's just going to tell us what's in the course. And it's just a nice soundtrack, so I can talk over it. It's like a soothing thing. Florida has drawn widespread controversy for rejecting an AP African American Studies course. This is my meditation app voice. That Governor Ron DeSantis and his administration claim lacks an educational purpose and pushes a political agenda. Though the topics the state has objected to make up only a very small portion of the course's full curriculum. Spanning African American history and culture. It's really they break up the sentences. Okay, so it's not like 20 college professors. That sounds fair. I think it's good that college professors develop the course. College professors are good sometimes. Vox is a college professor. I like him. It's being piloted before launching nationwide. That sounds fair. Should we go full ASMR? It will focus on Black communities in the U.S., but put them in the context of the broader African diaspora. That's great. I'm not mad yet. I'm not mad yet. And here's where the beat drops. Music sounds almost like sexual. Okay, 4 units. History of the African diaspora. The period of slavery and abolition in the U.S. African American experience in slavery was abolished and various Black movements and debates. None of that sounds crazy yet. I can't use the 666 voice for this, including, let's see, feminism, feminism, that's a real thing. Black power, that was a historical movement. Civil rights, historical movement. There's not, we're teaching history. Okay. What's next? Although seeing this picture, I'm going to be honest, brings back horrible memories, of going to school lunches in a big cafeteria. You hope you know someone to sit by. And if you don't, you're like, what the fuck do I do? Going to school sucked, man. I really hated it. But education's great. Okay, cultural appropriation. None of this sounds bad. And I'm going to try to be critical. If any of this sounds sus, all this sounds good. The Florida Department of Education said the state's rejecting the... Okay, so here's why they rejected it. Moises, I wasn't really bullied in the cafeteria. One time a guy tried to punch me in the face near a locker, though, because he said I made a joke that was like, that hurt his girlfriend's feelings or something. I think it was, I usually get in trouble out when I was younger because I would say things kind of sarcastically under my breath, but it would be much louder than I thought they would. And then people would be like, what the fuck did you say? And I'd have to either commit and just be like, oh, I said this, or I'd have to just be a total coward and be like, oh. Okay, intersectionality, Black queer studies. So this is the stuff they don't like. So intersectionality, I think, is more methodological, weird to be mad at. Black queer studies, they don't like that because it involves, I guess, sexuality. Movements for Black lives, in a sense, seems like it would just be a study that involves learning about and analyzing like contemporary political and social movements. And Black feminist literary thought, I mean, there's a lot of great authors who are Black women and Black feminists. So it seems like reading their books is not bad. Later, Penny, have fun at work. There you go. Todd K said, how was the long hair guy's name that did this? How is he faring? I don't know. Sometimes I had a very stereotypical high school experience, guys, where everyone was kind of mean. We're all like big dudes that played football, and I have no idea what they're doing now. Reparations movement. Okay, so I guess I think in Florida they would say the reparations movement can't be talked about because it involves white people feeling guilty. There's a thing, so Florida has this thing called the Stop Woke Act. I was going to maybe get into it, but we'll get off this in a little bit. But part of the Stop Woke Act is you can't teach anything that makes any particular racial, gender, sexual group feel guilty. But it's weird to police emotions like that. But I guess the idea would be that if you teach reparations, it would make white people feel bad or something. Jocks do suck, but I knew some cool jocks. If you're a jock, just be cool. Be a jock who reads books. Yeah, so it all comes back to critical race theory, right? Like intersectionality is just a word that's associated with critical race theory, which is bad. Bell Hooks is pretty cool. It's funny they're showing a beautiful picture of a nice little beach town. It's just weird to ban a concept. How do you ban a concept? Like, what a thing. Christopher Tinson, chair of the African American Studies Department at St. Louis University, told NPR there isn't. Yeah. So there isn't that being taught. Too advanced for high school students, yeah. So they're not even learning it. I wonder if this is AI generated. Oh, hey guys, the purpose of the course is not to indoctrinate students or guide them in some kind of political philosophy. Hey guys, we're making an AI video. We're going to shoot it next week. Going to have AI write some scripts, and I'm just going to read AI scripts. So we're going to see if AI is better than me. Now the beat's changing on the song. I'm kind of enchanted by this. This is maybe my new favorite song. The state legally requires schools to teach African American history. The music is really taking a turn now. I feel like I should have told everyone to take some ecstasy or something before we get to this part. Okay, I'm topping it before the beat drops. This is kind of boring. But yes, everyone, we're going to have ChatGPT write some Wisecrack videos. So get ready for that. Okay, so we'll wrap this one up. But again, Why did I want to talk about this? One, I went to school in Florida, so I have a vested interest in this. Two, Florida is a bit of a cultural bellwether in America right now. And three, I'm really interested in how, and someone brought this up, how education has this kind of ideological function and what the point would be of these sort of bans. So again, we're not really. Oh, I saw someone asking about Jared in there. He has a channel. You should follow it. Let's see. Oh yeah, I definitely think multivitamins are better than ecstasy. So there's that. And if you want to read more about this, there's a lot that could be read, a lot that could be discussed. You can go find stuff on this. Do you have any final thoughts on this topic or anything, Henry? If you're in the chat, let me know if you have final thoughts or questions about any of this. I'm happy to talk about it more.
I just find it funny that the concept or the word intersectionality is like the trigger word. Conceptually, it's something I've been aware of for a long time because I'm mixed raced, and that's why I'm like, hey, people keep mixing, and they will have to talk about it.
100%. Shout out to Christopher. 2CB rules. I wish I had a good 2CB dealer. Yes, I'm talking about drugs. I'm talking about buying illegal narcotics. You know what I mean? Cancel me, YouTube. Wish I had a good person to buy that from. Let's see. Bunch of cool stuff on the chat. And Tyson says, like, I hate when people do this. When every week someone's like, where is Jared? It's just like, wait, do you mean on the channel? Because he doesn't work here. And he hasn't in a very long time. But maybe you just mean where in the world, which is in the world. He's in Finland. Oh no. The ADHD train just went off the track. Oh, no, I was going to say that the thing about all this that really bums me out is, this idea, and Henry kind of got at this, that intersectionality is just like a code word for bad. And there's this dude, I think we've talked about it before, Christopher Rufo, real piece of shit. And he's one of the guys who led the way on demonizing CRT, intersectionality, all this sort of stuff. And in some of the pictures of Ron DeSantis at like a press conference being like, we killed that class, Christopher Rufo was like standing with him. So, you got to see the man behind the man. I think there's a good Killer Mike lyric about the man behind the man or something like that. If someone knows the music of Run the Jewels and Killer Mike, maybe you know the lyrics. Vox says, my final thoughts on this is that the counter argument to teaching CRT is usually, I don't want to learn more. No one's going to read more because like that'd be, school. I think there's something that is true in that. Just catching up with the chat. Let's see. Sorry, friends, just quickly checking up. Christopher Rufo does. Christopher Rufo's on the board of New College. Yo, that sucks. That sucks so bad. Why do you have no comments about how African American history is still mandatory to take in Florida? Well, my comment would be that's good. You have to learn all types of history. Why would you not learn African American history? Especially because Florida is a very diverse state. And I don't know, I went to high school with lots of Black people. Why would they not have access to their own history? And why would I, as a cracker, not have access to learning about that history as well? I loved it. I was actually, when I was in 8th grade, we're going to go to Michael's childhood story time now. I was a part of this thing called the African American history game contest. And they did this thing where all the kids had to take a test about African American history. And this is problematic too, I realized looking back now. And then the kids with the 2 highest scores got to go to this contest at a hotel near Disney where we competed in African American history. And it was me and another person who was not white, is a Black guy, which is great. And I would go to this contest, and I was one of the lone white kids there. And I realized this is weird. I shouldn't be here. This feels bad. I don't know. It was just a weird vibe. But it was a thing that happened in Florida where everyone had to do this. Everyone had to take, or you didn't have to, the option to take this test, and then you could participate in this. Matthew, thank you so much for hanging out. Someone said white guilt, anyone? I mean, here's the thing too, I'll be honest. I totally have white guilt sometimes. There are things in my life that have been determinately easier because I'm a white man, and I've had to witness friends and people I love and people I don't know have harder times in the exact same situations as me because they're not white. And I don't think it's bad to feel guilt sometimes. Oh, go ahead, Henry.
I was just gonna address. Thornback brings up my only problem with African American history being mandatory is that we just
Yeah.
have 1 month of it instead of it being incorporated into the year-long curriculum.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
I think what this kind of study like helps demystify and deconstruct, because I keep seeing in the comments people asking like, what is whiteness? And it's like, whiteness is a constructed thing. Like, we don't talk about German American history and Polish American history and Italian American history. Like, we talk about like white ethnicities, like we have jokes about it, sure, but we don't really break it down that way. And just the year-long inclusion of African American history along, like, Florida has Spanish history. It's traded many like imperial hands. Like, that territory's been places other than just like white Americans and black slaves. It's just, you need to be open to like being able to like understand or like lens it beyond just like 30 years ago or however short-sighted your view of history may be.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's something in the chat I want to talk to. Someone says, I think this, Kiri Blackwell said, imagine against a flex to laugh at people who feel bad for others. So yeah, I mean, we could even like reframe white guilt, right? And say like the experience of having empathy for those whose lived experience is markedly different from yours on the basis of arbitrary factors, right? And I think that's maybe what I would say. It is relatively arbitrary things like, our gender, our skin color, our eye color, our hair color, our lack of hair color. So I think that like it just, and this, I think this comes back to a point someone made earlier. So much of these like political debates really just boil down to basic human kindness and empathy. And I think that like you can say, why should I feel bad about the like that I'm like white or whatever? It's like, I don't know. You don't have to like feel bad, but you can operate with the principle of empathy. You can look at people in the world who have different experiences than you and view it as a fellow human. Let's do philosophy stuff. Let's go back to Kant's principle of humanity, to act in such a way that we treat human beings never as a means and an end, but always ends in themselves. Why does Kant say this? Because there's an inherent value in humanity that should lead us to wanting to be ethical and to prioritize those things. So, that's why I guess I don't think the white guilt thing is like is even a thing. Yeah, someone said in the chat, I'm catching up. Isn't white guilt just empathy and awareness? Let's see. Anya said, people say white guilt like it's an implication of responsibility. It's akin to empathy. So yeah, I guess. So I'm just catching up. Let's see. Yeah, empathy. Guilt means you're guilty of something. I'm just catching up. Empathy isn't necessarily bad. No, empathy is like good, guys. I would say try it. I would say if you've never tried empathy, you should totally try empathy. It's really fun. Let's see. Yeah, Vox says the logic of not wanting hereditary guilt is bad. Like, forget ancestors. If my cousin kills someone or robs them, I'll feel bad. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel bad that it's very likely that in my very recent history, people in let's just talk about my immediate family, were like, I guarantee you people like my grandparents or great grandparents were probably like shitty and racist and stuff. And that sucks. Now, I don't feel guilty because I didn't do it, but it sucks. And it's not good. And I don't like it. So there you go. If someone says, where do I get empathy? One of the best quotes ever, film critic Roger Ebert once said something like, movies are, and Henry might know this quote, someone in the chat might know it. I'm not going to Google it right now. But Roger Ebert said something like, movies are machines for the creation of empathy, or they're empathy machines. And so people say we never talk about movies enough on Wisecrack. But I mean this genuinely. So if someone's like, where do I get empathy? And maybe you mean that. And I think you might mean that. Maybe sometimes we don't feel the way we want to feel about stuff. Man, movies and books, like experiencing art that introduces you to narratives and lives that are different from your own, so important. I mean, that's why I love movies, love cinema, because I get to sit in a room often and enter another world and form that, empathic connection with people that aren't like me. That's why books are the same way. You read a novel, you connect to a character, maybe a character who isn't like you, and then you learn to think like someone else or think through someone else. So I think that's really important. Yeah, and again, I don't care what your damn political ideology is. Who cares, right? Who cares? You just have some empathy. I don't think someone said stop making assumptions of your history. Mr. Gertz said that. I'll make assumptions of my history. I heard my grandpa say racist stuff sometimes. It's not an assumption. Like, it's just not. It sucked. It wasn't cool. He was nice to me, but let's see, catching up. Yeah, art in general is an empathy machine for sure. Christopher says empathy is a skill people develop for sure. I think we all have and again, I'm not a psychologist, but I think we have that core capacity for empathy. Someone said movies are empathy machines. Mind control much? Books allow you to actually think, not movies. Well, eye controls, I agree with you on that. I think movies totally actually think. Yeah. I mean, interesting take, I guess, but I that's why I like seeing movies, because they make you think about stuff. And then you talk about them with your friends and you have debates about it and you read about them and you see them again. It's really great. Oh, damn. Now Vox has become Christopher Mavericks. I think I just made Christopher Mavericks real quick, which is kind of like that Key and Peele sketch about Liam Neeson's. Let's see. Yeah, Megan Christine says the other problem with white guilt is that it centers white folks and their experience rather than acknowledging and having empathy. Yeah, that's true. So maybe I think we figured it out today. We figured out we're not going to say white guilt anymore. We're going to say, I don't know, being empathic, operating with principles of empathy. What happened with this stream today, guys? What happened that we're just now talking about the importance of empathy or something? What happened here? Like the stream. Have some empathy for us, have empathy for us by liking the stream so we can keep having jobs and keep making stuff. Wasteland Blues says, I would never support any YouTube channel that mentions movies. Hell yes, Wasteland Blues. That's amazing. But I'll also say, to maybe touch back on the media and empathy thing in one sense. Okay, Caspi called for it, so we're going to go there. But movies can create empathy, but movies can also ideologically shape us in fucked up ways. So there you go. And if you haven't looked up that quote, Google the Roger Ebert quote after this. Guys, let's do it. Let's go to the hole. We need a theme song when we go to this, okay? So we're gonna I'm gonna say some stuff. It's gonna be a little bit I love you. We're here. We're hanging out. We're people. We have different ideas. We come from different places. But once a week, we come together in this glorious place that is YouTube, a media company owned by one of the biggest tech companies in the world, a company that culls our data in ways that we don't understand, a company that chooses which videos and which streams go to the top of the feed, which then determines how much money people make if their companies stay alive, which works with the advertisers, sometimes weird ones, to share their stuff with us. But we come here for one reason only, and that's to go in the Harris hole. Again, some people might not know what the Harris hole is. Yeah, we got to make a theme song. I'm going to start working on a theme song for the Harris hole, and I really mean that. I'm going to write a Harris hole theme song. Please hold me to that. I need accountability, guys. The Harris hole is when we watch the videos of Jonathan Harris. Johnny Harris is one of the biggest creators on YouTube and makes educational videos. We love to hate him. We hate to love him. Some of his videos we really love. Some of his videos we have some problems with. But he's a cool looking guy. His videos have a high production quality, and his team makes a giant pot of miso soup once a week. And we love that about him. So this week's video is on why submarines are way scarier than you think. This is awesome. And I'm so excited because submarines scare me in general. And I'm excited to see why Johnny does this. Hold me accountable on Discord to make the Johnny Harris theme song. But yeah, and if you're right now just like, this seems stupid, I don't want to hang out, give us a few minutes. give us a few minutes of entering the Harris hole. I think you'll have fun. And it's sort of a thing we do. You know, it's one of our community practices. When you enter the Harris hole, you become someone who's not like an observer of Wisecrack Live. You become a part of it. It's like an initiation ritual. So I don't know. Thornback, he's just kind of a herb. Amazing. Okay, let's check it out.
Nuclear power to destroy the human race several times over.
YouTube volume down. I
need
hear
to
it.
show you a video that is blowing my mind. You have the
Orange
ocean
beanie
just sitting there being nice and calm, and then this pops out. Boom! It doesn't just pop out, it pops out for a second, and it looks like it's just about to fall back down.
He has such a good monitor. Someone said, what's Johnny Harris's background? I think journalism, like video journalism. Also, everyone, Cass B hates Johnny Harris more than anyone else, but she also is the one that asked us to go to the Harris hole.
This is a rocket. Yes, a full-blown rocket that is headed for space.
Christopher, you got to decide if you like Harris or not.
Small. It's not
also,
small.
you can like him and not like him at the same time.
Are there underwater bases? Yes, they're called submarines.
If you've ever been in a submarine, let us know in the chat. I doubt anyone has, but that'd be amazing if you have.
Once it gets to the surface, it flies 1,000 kilometers above Earth, literally into space.
And like the stream if you're
looking at the stars to navigate, and eventually falls back down to Earth, traveling up to like 12,000 kilometers to hit whatever target the people who
this is scary.
Like, what have we created?
This is scary.
Destructive power. It threatened the world. A deadly game of stealth. An undeniable strategic deterrent. Nuclear warheads that can wipe out countries.
Hey, Thornback, thanks for joining.
Submarines are cool. I just gotta say it. They're these massive floating nuclear weapons that could be anywhere at any time that we use for psychological warfare and actual warfare and spying on people. And because of this, these giant vessels are actually incredibly stealthy.
Daniel's been on a submarine, guys. If you have questions about being in a submarine, ask them to Daniel right now. That's amazing. Dave's been in a dock submarine. Logan Williams has served on 2. Guys, this is amazing. Maverick's wife has been in a submarine. Okay, ask submarine questions.
One day, minding your own. And right below you, there could literally be this massive 48,000-ton metal machine with a couple hundred humans aboard, equipped with nuclear warheads that could be launched at a moment's notice. And you would have no idea, because not being seen is kind of their whole MO, which is nuts because these are some big boys, like Russia's Typhoon-class submarine.
It has to do a
You just
lot to
pluck
your
that out of
sleep.
the water and put it on land somewhere. You start to get a scale for how massive this thing is.
Oh my
The
God,
floating
another
building.
sub-vet.
Yeah, these guys are thick. And they're cruising around our oceans, 250 meters below the surface. Oh, and something we're going to talk about later, they literally have nuclear power plants on board, giving them basically unlimited energy to make fresh water and oxygen, which means they could be down here in the depths of the ocean for decades. That is, if there weren't humans aboard that needed to come up to eat food. Navies around the world who have submarines do everything in their power to ensure that these subs are quiet and invisible, even magnet resistant, all in the name of
Magnet resistant. As Insane Clown Posse once said, magnets. How do they
being
work?
undetectable. And they're always out there. Right now, in this very moment, there are tons of these things. There are humans on these multi-story buildings that are floating around our oceans with giant weapons in them. This is not normal. How did we get here? Why were these things invented? There's a lot to understand about submarines. There's a lot of angles we have been researching for months. And today, we are going to show you how we got here, what submarines can do, and most importantly, why?
One submarine has enough nuclear weapons to essentially end life on the planet.
Did anyone else just hear that quote where someone said one nuclear submarine has enough weapons to end life on this planet as we know it? That was a quote I just heard.
Just one submarine.
An increase in submarine activity.
Russian rearming their fleet, Chinese submarines, Iranian submarines. They will preserve.
For those in the chat who have been on a sub before, I'm curious about the food situation. I'm just curious about that. So, Reller82 came in as a Floridian. I'm sorry, it's okay. If you're just getting here now as well, we did all the Florida talk and stuff on education a little bit earlier. Just a reminder, we put all these up as VODs. There's a live tab on the Wisecrack homepage, so you can check that out if you ever want to touch base on things. One of my goals, I'll say this as well for accountability, I want to write a Harris Hole theme song. And then Henry, something we should do at some point is we should like annotate the VODs with the timestamps, So like it says, from this time to this time, this time Harris Hole. So when people do the VOD, they can do that. That'd be a good thing to do, I imagine. You can let us know what you think in the chat. But I'm saying that, so maybe that's the thing we can do in the future. But yeah, let's keep watching.
Peace for many years to come.
If you're just getting here, we're in the Harris Hole. If you're just getting here too, like the stream if you don't mind.
Today's topic is so juicy and there is so much to get through. Nick, our studio manager, is building something for today's topic.
He's been incorporating the crew a lot in recent videos, which I really like, and showing kind of the behind the scenes, which is really fun.
Show you. But actually, first, I want to thank the people who made this possible. So thank you, BetterHelp. I've become a massive proponent of therapy.
We're going to skip the ad.
Questions and model. Oh my God.
Okay, guys, I'm going to do Burns might get fired corner right now and just tell you all that I really hope we never do BetterHelp ads again. I might have to at some point, and maybe I'll go scrub this clip when we do. I don't like it. It's probably one of my least favorite sponsors we work with. We did an ad yesterday for a company that is actually cool. It feels so good when we have a sponsor. It's like a cool company that I like, but boy, oh boy, do I not like when we do ads for BetterHelp. And then I look in the comments, and then a bunch of you are just like, why do you do this, you piece of shit? And I'm just like, I'm just trying to keep the lights on. Okay, but I didn't say that.
God. That's the SSBN Andrew Jackson Lafayette class. As you can see, all the pieces are out everywhere.
And these are the people. Look at the people. Oh my God.
If you look up here in the front, these are the bunks. These are the torpedoes.
Okay, we will check in with Nick in a moment as that model gets built. Let me tell you how we got here. People have been building boats to try to go underwater for a very long time. Like, look at this old art where you can see Alexander the Great going completely underwater in a big glass barrel. It was like 2,000 years ago. 1,800 years later, you have Leonardo da Vinci, who was busy literally thinking of anything that could be invented, and he sketched up his very own version of
There's
an
no
underwater
world
boat.
he wasn't on
This
drugs.
beauty right here. It was basically like a big mechanical fish. Oh, and this is wild. He kept these sketches a secret because
We would
he
love a
feared,
renewable
quote, the evil
energy
nature
sponsor.
of
That'd be
men
fun.
who practice assassination at the bottom of the sea. Like, he thought that we might use these underwater boats for war.
Da Vinci knew
Whoops.
stuff.
Anyway, the first known boat to actually navigate underwater was, of course, built by a Dutch dude. The Dutch, man, they're just so good at water. 150 years later.
You know what else the Dutch did in water? I'm not going to go backwards. I'm not going to open up conversations, but the Dutch also did some stuff. Please do. Someone said, can I plug another creator's video? Hell yeah, let us know. And in a second, I'm going to ask you guys to let us know if there's other stuff that you like online that we should check out. Thanks for liking the stream. Thanks for being here. We're hanging out, learning about submarines for a little bit. Why not? Although in the map right now on the screen, Harris loves maps, we got Florida on the map.
Over here, what was soon to be the United States, George Washington paid for this sucker to be made for his
What?
army. I mean, there could be a whole video about this boat, the Turtle, because it kind of looked like two turtle shells put together. So cute. The guy in there is just like so.
Someone said any codes for Schedule 35. I don't know if ours still works. You can go to Schedule 35 and put in Wisecrack and see if it still works.
Cozy. They tried to use the Turtle in their war for freedom against the British, but it never really did anything useful, and then it just sank. I mean, cool name, but wasn't a super useful submarine. But it paved the way. 50 years later, we have the American Civil War, where the Confederate rebels built a sub that was powered by a bunch of guys manually turning a crank. And on board, it had a long spar torpedo. Don't be fooled,
Imagine
though.
being
Spar
that
torpedo is
guy
just a fancy way of
whose
saying
job
a
is to
bomb on a
be the
15-foot
cranksman
stick. And they actually
in
used
that.
it. They snuck up on a Yankee.
Daniel said, and Daniel's been on a sub, guys, in the chat says they screen for claustrophobia. Some get through the cracks. We've had to BSB people off. Yeah, I think I couldn't do that. People are asking about the Dutch East India Trading Company, and the Dutch was one of the big groups that shipped people across oceans, people who were enslaved. It's not good. It's not good, but they were very much involved with that.
Yankee ship underneath it with their bomb stick in the middle of the Civil War and blew it up, and both sides sank. Like, the submarine sank too. Like, it didn't work. I mean, it kind of worked, but it just didn't really work. Anyway, I had to mention all of these like early submarines because they kind of laid the groundwork. But in the 1800s, things get really serious. Thanks to this guy over here in Germany, Rudolf Diesel invented an
And don't get me started on the
engine
Germans.
that
I
changed
kid.
everything. This
I mean, I
new
don't,
engine
but you know what I mean.
mixed pressure and air and fossil fuels that all exploded and made things move. This changed a lot of industries, but the Germans were like, let's put these in submarines and run them to charge a bunch of batteries that we can use to power the sub while we're underwater. It's a lot better than the hand crank, and indeed it was. But there was one big problem.
Damn, Ken was on deployment 5 months as a vegan.
Like, it needs to be able to pump out the exhaust that it makes, and it needs to be able to suck in air to like make energy. So you can't actually run your engines underwater. So these German subs, as stealthy as they were still very limited because they could only stay underwater for like 48 hours max before having to come up and give away their position so that they could get air for their engines. This is a problem that will soon be solved, but we just need a few wars first.
Someone said Diesel was a dude's name. Yeah, Vin Diesel. Ever heard of him?
We have all these big empires that are looking for ways to destroy themselves with their
That
new
was a
industrial
hack joke
technology,
on my
and they're
behalf.
getting good at submarines. They're loading them up with more and more batteries. Now they have sonar and radar capabilities so that they can like.
It's 12:45 Pacific time. We're gonna keep watching this video. It's officially time for What Are Ya? This is the time of the stream. If you're here, thanks for being here. We appreciate you being here. Like the stream if you haven't yet. Share what you're watching. It could be other YouTube videos. It could be things that you're playing, TV shows, movies, games, books, snacks you're liking, music you're listening to. Basically anything along that line. Share it in the chat. And then Henry and I will maybe share ours in a second.
See underwater. And they have radios and encryption devices so they can talk to each other while they're underwater, which is everything when you're fighting a war. The Germans call these submarines Unterseeboats or U-boats, and they use them for their new plan of unrestricted submarine warfare, which is a sterile way.
Yeah, I mean, Cass makes this point, but yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if he's going to get into war and conflict and the need for these things and technology being driven by war.
Just saying, we feel comfortable sneaking up on civilian
This fool
boats
is so
and
good.
sinking them and killing the people without notice because we've decided
Big
we
Mouth
are
is great.
literal villains.
Submarines aim and fire their.
Ooh, Dr. Suero's Mark Fisher and Nick Land. Mark Fisher's great. Be wary of Nick Land's turn because he took a very weird turn. The bear is pretty good. Thank you, Chase.
So yeah.
I think Ring Around the Rosie finished Fraser rips. I'll just say that I think I'm in The Last of Us hive. I'm really liking the show thus far. So that's for me.
Being used for horrible means, but let's be clear, this is amazing technology. Like this.
So it's been being used for horrible means, but to be clear, this is amazing technology. I don't know. I know somewhere in Louisiana, Caspi's eyes just rolled. Henry, do you have a What Are You this week?
Yes, just real quick because this submarine video plus Caspi's commentary on the romanticization of the warlike aspects of it. I want to tell people to check out the Battle of May Island video that Down the Rabbit Hole did. That's on YouTube.
Cool.
It's a horrifying story of a submarine battle way back in time before we really had the grace to save people in the same way we can today. It's good stuff. Aside from that, I'm enjoying The Last of Us as well, and started my first Chuck Tingle book, Harriet Porber and the Bad Boy Parasalophagus. It's funny as hell, and I've been enjoying that.
Awesome. Someone just brought up watching Jackie Brown in the chat, and I'll just add to say I've been reading Tarantino's book, Cinema Speculation, which is fun. If you like movies and American movies from the 70s, and if you like Quentin Tarantino's non-grammatical digressions, worth checking out. And I haven't finished listening to it yet, but a rapper I like a lot, Odyssey, Oddisee, put out a new record this week. I started listening to it earlier this morning. Very good. I like him very much. Let's watch a few more minutes.
Is light years ahead of
people like that band
forefathers
Pup.
of submarines, like the Turtle or that poorly thought out bomb on a stick thing from the Civil War.
A lot of good recommendations this week,
They still have
everyone.
the limitation of air. They need to come up all the time to get air for their engines. No matter how scary and stealthy they could become and sneaking around underwater during these wars, they still have to come up to the surface every 48 hours to run their engines and recharge their batteries, giving away their sneaky position and becoming way less effective as a war tool. This would be like playing Battleship, but every few turns you have to flip your board around to show your opponent where you are for a sec. They kind of figured this out a little bit when they started to use these two little tubes that allowed them to kind of still be underwater, but to like put the tubes up and suck down air from the surface, push out exhaust, but it's kind of rubbish.
Oh, Moises, you're watching House is so good. Yeah, we're in a Harrisol
Like,
extraneous.
having to run your noisy engines every 48 hours was a huge
We're not going to finish this
limitation
Harrisol
on
though.
how useful these subs could be. Well, of course, the war ends. Germany loses and surrenders. And some of these U-boats that were just sitting there were divvied up among the winners, the US, the UK, and the USSR, who discovered that, wow, the Germans have some amazing submarine tech.
I didn't realize that when the Germans lost the war that the Allies got to split their gear. That's
use
crazy.
this tech to pimp out our own subs, leapfrogging decades of development. And this is where things get juicy and scary.
World's Fair is great.
So now you have these two former allies, the US and the Soviet Union, looking at each other with skepticism. They both got their hands on this German tech, and they both know that the other got their hands on this German tech, and they
I've also been rewatching Mad Men, and I like it a lot, but I think it's making me
both
depressed.
secretly are like, we need to get way better than the other at submarine tech. Let's go. This was a huge priority, but it was also weird and hush-hush. The Cold War. This begins an era of secretive investment into submarine technology, and this is where they level up to blow all of our minds, where submarines become the impossibly advanced machines that we know today.
In a sense, to relate the Harrisol to our earlier discussion, there's a world where I think someone like Johnny Harris could design an educational curriculum that could be incredibly informative while kind of being completely non-ideological or unconsciously ideological, because he isn't really he's good at like explaining history and various topics without really getting into, you know, the underlying socio and political motivations for those things and what went into it. So yeah, thanks for being here again.
Something that changed everything here was that humans had learned to tinker with atoms, breaking them apart to make incredible
Who's excited to see Oppenheimer?
Energy. And they used that energy to blow things up, but also to make electricity. And crucially, nuclear energy didn't require air. So it's the 1950s, and you got this guy. He's a Russian-born American Navy guy named Hyman Rickover. And he was like, whoa, wait a second. You're telling me that you can make electricity, but you don't need air? Light bulbs going off on this guy's head because he's a submarine guy. And he's like, let's slap these puppies into submarines. That would solve all of our
Yeah, Harris is like the perfect liberal.
needing to come up to the surface every couple of hours problem. The US government's like, wait, sorry, what did you say, Rickover? And Rickover's like, I said, let's put the nuclear power plant inside of the submarine. We got to get ahead of the Soviets. He got a lot of pushback for this for obvious reasons, but he dug his heels in, leapfrogging all the
I'm definitely seeing Oppenheimer.
bosses till he got to the chief of Navy operations and whispered in his ear his big idea, and it totally worked. The story of how this went down is insane, and Rickover was insane and visionary, and I'll leave some reading in the sources for those who want to go down that rabbit hole. Whew. Showing a lot of discipline.
I really like this graphic. I like this video is doing a lot of these like old school like 60s, 70s things, which I really like.
Just like breezing over this guy's.
If you're an editor for Johnny Harris and you ever watch the stream and you think that we're making fun in the Harrisol, we're not. Your editing work is top notch. I mean, it's not as good as what Henry can do, but it's pretty
But
good.
yes, it's the 50s, and the US government set about trying to put a full-blown nuclear reactor, a power plant, inside of their giant floating weapon.
That's really crazy when you state it like that. The idea of putting a nuclear reactor inside of a underwater vessel. It's pretty crazy.
And they did somehow, and it changed everything.
The arrival of nuclear power has broken those bonds.
Can go around the world on a core of uranium only slightly larger than a golf ball.
She may have just as profound an effect on naval strategy as the airplane has had on war.
Let's see how Nick's doing with his model.
Oh, we're back in the studio. So the kitchen that's behind him right now, in case you haven't seen recent videos, that's where they make miso soup. I think it's on Miso Mondays.
Here we go. Look at this big boy.
Here she is.
Wow.
I think I lack the patience for models, but I think it's cool when people make those. If anyone in the chat makes models, I don't know, just confess. Hey, what's up, homie man 1917? I hope your girlfriend likes you and is impressed by you.
I am going to
Grigori bought a ticket for Babylon. Let us know if you liked
put this model on my desk and look at it every day because...
Oh, yeah, and if you didn't know, I'm the vice president of the Babylon Hive. Please see the movie Babylon in theaters if you haven't already.
It's beautiful, and it's like retro, which is kind of cool. Anyway,
Wisecrack doesn't have
let's get back
Miso
to the
Mondays
story
because
here,
we're not all
the
in
next
office
chapter
together,
here
really.
Is really the chapter that matters most. Once they got the nuclear reactor onto these subs.
But I want me
everything
so Mondays.
changed. I'm going to show you why. So look at this big old submarine. It's a Sturgeon-class submarine from the 60s. It's a US Navy sub. And look, back here we've got the nuclear reactor. It sits back here doing its thing, breaking atoms apart, which produces an enormous amount of heat that can heat up.
Forgot to mention this earlier with all this Florida talk. I'm going to Florida tomorrow. So I'll do some on-the-ground reporting and let you know what I can
water
find.
That turns this massive propeller. And remember that spinning things gives you power, electricity. Boom, you're spinning turbines and now you have electricity for your submarine. Not only
Okay, we're gonna call the Harris hole there. We got to start wrapping it up. Someone said so much shit, piss, and barf in Babylon. That's very true. Wagyu Wednesday is good. Someone said, "What is Babylon?" It's a recent Damien Chazelle movie starring Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt. It's a 3-hour romp through the early days of Hollywood. It's intense. It's all over the place. It's a little bit crazy. Oh boy. Hey, we're gonna start wrapping up soon. Thanks for being here today. You know, we got pretty frenetic in the first hour, but I think we got some places. I think we learned some interesting stuff. I will fight a gator, Julia. I feel like maybe the most important thing we got at today is empathy is good. That's our big hot take. Empathy is good. And a lot of what people talk about as being, I don't know, like lefty or whatever on this channel, a lot of it's just trying to operate from a principle of empathy. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, feel free to join our Patreon. You get in the door at $5. You get on our Discord. You get some extra content. You get videos early. If you are on the Discord, make sure you pop in the Wisecrack Live channel. Give your thoughts. If you want to keep talking about anything we talked about today, do it in the Wisecrack Live channel. And if you have ideas for future streams, let us know. I would love some help. We would love you to give us ideas for what you want us to talk about. Also, give Henry love at this time. Obviously, you can be a member of the channel if you want. Nice to see all you here today. Like the stream before you leave, says Tyler Schmidt, and you don't want to get on Tyler's bad side. You do not want to get on Tyler Schmidt's bad side. He will make you wish you have never been born. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Consider joining the Patreon. Consider subscribing to the channel or being a member of the channel. We got a video coming out tomorrow, 10 a.m. Please check. And as always, watch the videos, comment on the videos. It all helps us out, and it helps us keep the channel alive. We're just trying to stay alive, guys. Say something fun in the chat on your way out. Send some good energy into the world, and we will see you all next week. But again, if you're on Discord, come say hi. Any final words for you, Henry, before we both go into our cryopods for a week?
Lively chat today, and I'm just happy to hang out with y'all.
Amazing. So have a great week, everyone. And remember, do not wrong Tyler Schmidt. You will live to regret it, or more precisely, you will not live to regret anything, because he'll kill you.
Bye, y'all.